Did
our
you ever
lifestyles
get
were.
too lost in like partying at any point in your life?
I never really got really too into partying, you know.
Really?
I've tried, you know, I've done drugs and I've done things. I think I just it affected my work negatively. I used to smoke a lot of weed. My first album, when I was like 20 years old, I smoked. I mean, so much. Like I was like the fiendiest fiend ever. I smoked till like I couldn't. I fall asleep every day, but I made the craziest music that way. But then eventually, as I got older, I couldn't be productive anymore to smoke and stuff like that. You just gotta like find a balance in your life.
Really?
You cut weed out not because it like turned and gave you anxiety. You cut it out just because it was like taking away your
I
productivity.
think when I used to smoke, I didn't have anybody around me. I just smoked by myself, and I smoked and made music, and that was like. But then, yeah, when you're around people and you're smoking, I definitely couldn't deal with that. Like it was definitely an issue of anxiety. But then as I got older, I just thought I could make more. I could just do more shit.
That's what I've been going through lately, where it's just at a certain point, it's like, God, just smoking so much. Like it goes from something that you do for a little bit of stress relief, something to do at night, to something that, you know, I'm waking up and smoking a blunt at 9 in the morning and then going to a meeting, and everybody in the meeting can tell that I'm high as fuck. And it's just like, this is not how I should be going out about my life. This is not ultimately productive.
I think I also have 2 children, and I think doing drugs will give me a lot more anxiety. It just feels like you have that in behind you, and you know, I feel like I can't believe it. I still hang out with like someone like Snoop, and he's just smoking so much, and he has such big responsibilities in a life. And I mean, it's like the second sense to him. I think at that point, like it's part of his life and his lifestyle and his body. But I can never do that.
Yeah, that's a weird thing I think about Roseman over here. He doesn't touch this stuff.
gives me anxiety.
Yeah.
And it's like I'm already kind of anxious, you know, so it just makes it worse.
I think if it just do it, makes you feel good. I mean,
Well, the problem with weed, I think, is that like if someone likes it, they love it, and they don't understand how anyone else wouldn't like it. But it affects everybody differently, like you guys were just saying too. Like Snoop obviously needs it.
I think he needs it just to like exist. I mean,
Yeah.
But I feel like if in California, I never experimented with it, but I think there's so many different levels of weed, so where like one weed gives you no effect and like literally can make you weight lift. There's there's so many calibers of weed that I haven't had time to really experiment with it, you know?
Yeah, ultimately it's just something that alters you. And so like it does something. It does change you a little bit. And that's a good or bad thing. I don't know. It's up to you.
I'm very lucky because my life is very unique. Like every day is different. So I think some people get into it because their life's like a circle, right? They want to have some change. Yeah. And like, it's like if you like from where we're from, like New Hampshire or wherever, if you're living like the Midwest, I mean, maybe drugs, it's like your life literally, it doesn't change and you want to change something. So sometimes people move into drugs that way, but I've been lucky that I just, every day I don't even know what I'm doing. So when I wake up, so I gotta.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, do you get bored?
No, I mean, I love I'm like waiting to be alone sometimes, just like get things, you know, I'm kind of happy to have some time off, you know?
I mean, because like you got your label, you got all your, you know, different artist projects, everyone you produce for, you know, all these different things going on. You got the residency in Vegas and all that stuff. Has it ever just become like, oh shit, I got to go do this thing. This is like boring.
I mean, for sure, Vegas, after a little while, you know, you might be sick or you might be like tired from like traveling, and then you have to do Vegas and you're like, damn, I gotta go. I don't feel good. Got a stomachache. I'm like barely awake, and I gotta go to play for like 20,000 kids and pretend I'm having fun and drinking, you know, and stuff like that. Eventually, you just do it, and if you're in the club vibe, I'm lucky that like the energy kind of affects me, and I get into the mood. Very rarely, like sometimes if I'm DJing, the sound turns off, something happens, and it's like it's awkward, and people are like staring at me, and like nothing works, and I'm like, getting back in that vibe is impossible. I can't do it again. Like if something happens, like the lights go off in the first 5 minutes, I'm like, I get on the mic, do a little banter or whatever, and then it just sucks. That's like the worst vibe. I did this one show in Nigeria once. It was like the one, like my like hardest show. I did an Africa tour, and I did Lagos, and it was like a big thunderstorm, and like they told me like it was nothing worked, no lights. I'm like, fuck it, I'm gonna go do this picnic table and just DJ this show. Like I just go and do it. I got on the stage like, hey, everything works now. So I'm like, I'm just gonna give it my all. Like these kids are like, they're probably confused. It wasn't really a big crowd, but they were like there to see what this fucking cracker ass DJ was on stage gonna do. So I'm up there, and they told me to play it, and I started playing the craziest song I had, but no speakers worked. It was only the monitor. So I'm just like, it's in my ears. I'm like going like crazy, like everybody's just staring at me, like, what is this? And they're like, okay, yo, stop. The speakers don't work. Just back off a little bit. And then the guys behind me is like, get on the mic and just talk. Go do some banter. So I'm just like there in Nigeria, and I'm like on the mic, and they're just like feeding me lines about like Big Brother Nigeria, like whatever the big jokes were. And I'm like doing some punchlines for like 10 minutes, like the guy's feeding me lines, like getting the crowd to laugh at me and stuff like that. And like did that for a little while. And finally the music starts playing and I got to go back there
Right.
and DJ again and like pretend to have the energy and like do a show with no lights or nothing. And I mean, experiences like that, you learn a lot. You have to like be strong and like perform no matter what. You can't have stage fright at that point. But there's definitely challenges, you know, like that was like one of the hardest shows I ever did in my life.
Right.
Like no production. I thought at least if I was going to Nigeria and if like,
You were doing stand-up comedy in Nigeria.
it was like, I was like, at least if people didn't understand my music or like what I was doing, I'd have like a light show. Cause that's what they weren't used to seeing there, but nothing worked. So I was just literally doing like stand up, which is pretty bad.
That's crazy. So you have an album, like a rap influenced or primarily rap based that you've been working on lately?
Well, I'm putting out an album on Friday, like an EP with just hip hop records that I've done over the last year, like records that I've gotten done with like artists I've just been working with. Like Designer was the first guy I kind of worked with because we were on the same publishing company. Then Drum, who I've done records with.